These are two articles from uncoveringlife.com. The articles are written by Göran Backlund, author of Refuting the External World. A link to the original articles are in the description to this video. It is read using text-to-speech software. Article 1. Navigating the Dream State.
Question. The more I read about this, the more disconnected I feel from the people around me. It's probably ego talking, but even though, not that long ago, I was one of them, it seems so stupid now to live life the way they do and not care about this tremendously important subject. But even besides that, I just find I can't connect with others anymore, even worse than I was already unable to. They aren't interested in that which moves me most, which fascinates me most.
I don't think it need to be our values, ideas and opinions that connects us to other human beings. I think it's the willingness to disengage in all of that and instead let life move on its own accord that allows for the most intimate form of connection to others. But in order to do that, one must first develop some basic trust. I've already written about moving from an intentionless place, but before you transition to that, here's a quick primer on what you can start doing right now, from the top of my head. There's a basic conflict in the ordinary human way of being, between what one wants to do, and what one thinks he ought to do. When these two are in alignment, we experience effortlessness and flow, but when they're not, we experience distress, anxiety and fear. But we need to realize that our idea of what we should do is a terrible guide for navigating the dream state. It's motivated by fear, not trust. Instead, we can shift into another attitude. Namely, that when the sense of wanting to do something arises, we view that as the universe informing us of what we really should be doing. In other words, we no longer let ourselves be guided by what we think we should do, but what we want to do. Simple, right? Stop doing what you think you should be doing, and start doing what you want to do. Now, sometimes it's not so easy to tell the difference between these two. Sometimes we are so confused that we believe that our ideas of what we should be doing in fact are what we want to do, when they're really not. So, how do we distinguish between our ideas of what we should be doing and our true desire? Well, anything that suggests that you should be doing something, or having something, in the future is definitely not your true desire right now. So, if you think you should really be working towards getting a Ferrari, but right now you want to sit in your couch, then your true desire is to sit in the couch, not having a Ferrari. And if these two are in conflict, for instance, you blaming yourself for being such a lazy bum, then you need to be a little more humble and show some respect for the wishes of the totality. Cause right now, it wants to spend some time in the couch, and who are you to question that, right? The key is to listen to what you want right now. Want to take a step in this direction? Want to say that particular thing? Want to think about this now? And if you don't feel anything, if you don't want anything in particular right now, then that's the universe telling you to do nothing. It doesn't matter if you're standing by yourself in the middle of the dance floor, half drooling like an idiot, if something doesn't come up, you don't move. And before you say it, if those bills are supposed to be paid, there will come a time when you want to pay them. Now, if you'd let yourself be guided like this, you'll soon see a new way of being emerging. A way of trust, not fear. And when you move like this, you always know what to do, because you just do what you want to do, in this moment. And once this become your new way of being, you'll now move from a place that allows you to effortlessly connect with others, if the indication to do so arises, because any notion of what you should be doing are no longer obstructing the natural flow of things. Sorta. Worth a try at least, right? Article 2. The greatest piece of art ever created. Before I had the understanding, I was very dismissive towards art. I thought of it as an escape from life. Why immerse myself in movies and books and music? Why care about all this imaginary stuff when the real world is waiting out there, I thought. But now when the distinction between imaginary and real has dissolved, I find myself treasuring these things. Orcs, X-Wings and Agent Smith of the Matrix are no less real than the computer I sit in front of as I write this, and to watch them on the screen is by no means an escape anymore. Spending time experiencing Mordor and the Death Star isn't a waste of life, despite how often people like to remind us otherwise. but is ultimately a celebration of life itself whose expression takes infinite forms, including The Karate Kid, Batman and Gone with the Wind. But if I allow myself to philosophize a bit, I can't help but think it's too bad that movies are only experienced in terms of two sense modalities. I mean, how cool would it be if we could create a movie that not only included video and audio, but also, let's say, tactile elements? Those could be on their own track, so that, along with the images and sounds, there would be a series of tactile sense impressions playing out. That is, whoever was experiencing the movie would not only see images and hear sounds, but would also feel any relevant sensations. And if the video portion of this visual, auditory and tactile symphony could just encompass the entire visual field, so that you're not watching a screen or anything like that, but you're right there, right in the midst of it, we would surely have something truly remarkable. With encompassing visuals, and by inserting such tactile elements in just the right places, we would have a much more immersive and realistic experience. The tactile track would of course be in perfect synchronization with the others, so that when something happened in, for example, the visual feed, that event would have its corresponding sensations played from the audio and tactile tracks. There would simply be this perfectly designed commonality between everything, so that the impression of you being in the movie would be entirely believable. What if we could do that? But to take it even further, what if we could also insert emotions into the mix? We could perhaps play whatever emotion suitable to the occasion, and thus really make this a great piece of art. No longer would whoever experienced it have their own emotional reactions, but we could now effectively control the emotional response, simply by creating it as an inherent part of the symphony itself. Wouldn't that be absolutely awesome? And of course, given that we've managed to put feelings in there, smell and taste is a no-brainer. So, not only would we now listen to, see, and feel the symphony, we could smell it and taste it as well. And to put the cherry on top, let's create a track of thoughts along everything else. If we did, we would now have total control over the entire experience. We could design the ultimate play, and anyone experiencing this would be at the total mercy of whatever we decided to put in there. We could even make them forget that it was just a movie. I wonder what that would be like. Well, one thing's for sure. It would truly be the greatest piece of art ever created.